Hi, my name is Ellie. I want to tell you about the scariest thing that ever happened to me. It happened when my big brother Tommy and I went hiking with our mom and dad in the Chiricahua desert in Arizona. It's a real place with big rocks and twisty trails. It's super pretty, but also super creepy. We were visiting a place called Chiricahua National Monument. There's a trail there called Echo Canyon, and it goes through tall rock towers and tiny tunnels. Mommy said the rocks were called hoodoos. They looked like people standing really still. I didn't like how they stared at us. They looked like they were watching. "Let's hike to Faraway Ranch," Daddy said. "It's only 2 miles." We packed water and peanut butter sandwiches and started walking. It was hot and sunny. Lizards zipped across the rocks. I saw a cactus with pink flowers and a bird with a long tail. Tommy said it was a roadrunner. Everything seemed okay at first. Then we saw the warning sign. It said, "Caution, stay on marked trails, wildlife and steep drops ahead." I asked, "What's steep mean?" "It means don't fall off," Tommy said, and he laughed. But I didn't think it was funny. We kept going. The trail got skinny. We had to walk in a line. I was behind Tommy and Mommy was behind me. I held onto my water bottle real tight. That's when I heard it. Rustle. Rustle. Something was in the bushes. Mommy said, "It's probably just a jackrabbit." But then we heard it again. Rustle. Snap. Crack. It was loud. It was close. I looked behind me. Nothing was there. We walked faster. I didn't like the rocks anymore. They looked like they were whispering. Then Tommy stopped. He was staring at the ground. I looked too. There were footprints in the sand. Big ones. Not like Dad's boots. Not like a coyote. These were bare feet, but huge and weird. The toes were long. They went off the trail into the rocks. "Who walks out here without shoes?" Tommy asked. Mommy didn't answer. We kept walking, but faster now. Then we heard it again. Rustle. Snap. Crunch. And then a voice. A low, scratchy voice that said, "Don't leave me!" I froze. My heart went boom, boom, boom. Tommy looked at me and said, "Run!" We ran. I dropped my water bottle. Mommy grabbed my hand. The rocks were spinning. I couldn't breathe. But the voice came again. "Come back. I'm hungry." I screamed. We ran until we saw a sign that said Faraway Ranch. It was an old house with a fence and a bench. We stopped to rest. I was crying. My legs hurt. Daddy said, "We're safe now." But we weren't, because the wind changed, and we smelled something bad, like old meat and mud. And then, from behind the trees, something moved, tall, gray, with long arms and no face. It walked like it was broken, and it was coming toward us. Mommy grabbed me. Daddy yelled, "Go! Now!" We ran through the field and down a different path. The monster thing made a sound like... We didn't look back. We ran until we saw the visitor center. A ranger was standing there. He saw us and said, "Are you okay?" We all nodded, but we were shaking. The ranger said, "You shouldn't hike Echo Canyon this late. Strange things happen out there." We told him what we saw. He didn't laugh. He just looked at the rocks and said, "Some people say something lives out there. Something old. Something that doesn't like visitors." Then he looked at me and said, "You were lucky." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the voice in my head. "Don't leave me." We never went back to the Chiricahua desert. But sometimes when it's quiet, I still hear that sound. Rustle, snap, crunch, and then... So if you ever go hiking there, stay on the trail, and whatever you do, don't look back. My name is Danny, and I live in a little town called Estes Park. It's right near the Rocky Mountains, where there are lots of trees and hills and winding roads that twist like snakes. One day, something really scary happened to me. It was almost a year ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I was driving through the mountains in my red truck, going to visit my friend Timmy. He lived way, way up the road near a place where people say bears sometimes walk around at night. The trees were tall and the sky looked like it was hiding something. I was kind of bored, so I started calling people. I tried calling my friends, but nobody answered. Then I called my mom. She loves soccer, and we talked about the games and the teams. We were laughing and talking when I saw something. Up ahead, on the road, 2 big trucks were blocking the way. They were parked funny, like they didn't belong there. I thought maybe someone was hurt, or maybe something had broken down. So I slowed down. I didn't tell my mom yet. I was just watching. Then, something really bad happened. 3 men jumped out of the trucks. They weren't smiling. They weren't waving. They had guns. I froze. I looked in the mirror. Another car was coming up behind me, fast. I couldn't escape. I didn't have anything to protect myself. I felt like a little kid. I didn't know what to do. One of the scary men came to my window and knocked his gun on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I put my hands up and got out, very, very slowly. The man started yelling in Spanish, but I didn't understand. I'm supposed to know Spanish because of my family, but I never learned enough. I felt ashamed and scared. They took my wallet, my keys, my phone. I thought they were going to leave me in the cold, empty mountains, all alone. Then, something strange happened. One of the men got into my truck. I remembered. My mom was still on the phone. The call hadn't ended. The truck was still on. That meant she could still hear everything. I looked through the window. The man in my seat saw the phone. He was about to hang it up. But then he didn't. He stopped. He just stared at it. Then, he started talking. But not to me, to my mom. I couldn't hear them. But I saw his lips moving. I saw his eyes get big, like he was surprised or maybe even scared. He kept looking at me. Then the other 2 men came over to the truck. They all looked inside. Then, they all looked at me. Their faces were weird, like they were trying to figure something out. Then, they gave everything back. My phone, my keys, my backpack, even my favorite toy dinosaur that was in the back seat. The only thing they kept was the cash in my wallet. As one man handed me my stuff, he smiled, but not a nice smile, and he said, "Tax." Then they all got back into their trucks and drove away into the trees. Fast. I stood there shaking. My hands were cold. My legs were wobbly. When I finally started driving again, I called my mom. I was yelling. "What did you say to them?" I asked. She said, "I told them I was calling the police. I was tracking your phone and knew where you were." I didn't believe her. I mean, she was speaking Spanish to them, and they were listening. But she wouldn't tell me anything else. What if my mom knows something? Something about people who do bad things? What if my mom has a secret? I still don't know what she told them. Maybe I don't want to know. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind whistles through the trees and the road outside my house is quiet, I think about those men, and I think about my mom. And I wonder, what if she saved me because they knew her? And even scarier, what if they're still watching? What if... Hi, my name is Maxie. I like camping a lot. One day my big sister Lila said, "Maxie, let's go camping in a really quiet place." I got so excited. We packed a big bag with marshmallows, water, flashlights, and even a warm blankie. We were going to Joshua Tree. That's a real place in California where the sky is super dark and you can see every single star. When we got there, it was so quiet. There were no cars, no houses, no people, just sand, rocks, and cactus plants. The sky turned orange, then pink, then black. I looked up and saw more stars than ever before. It was so pretty. Lila made a campfire, and we roasted marshmallows and laughed. That night, we cuddled up in our little tent and fell asleep. But then, I heard something. It was a strange sound. It wasn't close, but it was scary. It was like, "Oh!" Like a ghost was crying really far away. I sat up in my sleeping bag and whispered, "Lila, did you hear that?" She nodded and said, "It's probably just a desert animal, Maxie." Go back to sleep. But I didn't want to sleep. The next night, we heard it again. Oh! This time, it was louder, and it lasted longer. I felt cold, even though it was warm. Lila tried to laugh it off. Desert animals are weird, she said. But I knew. I knew something was wrong. That night, I had a bad dream. I dreamed someone was walking in circles around our tent. But then, I woke up. Because there were real footsteps. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone was really walking. Right outside our tent. I stopped breathing. I couldn't even move. The steps were slow. Not like an animal. Not like a bunny or a lizard. It sounded like a person. The steps stopped. Right outside. Then I saw a glow. A little orange glow on the side of our tent. It was a lighter. Someone was holding a flame right outside. And then, the flame got bigger and bigger. And then, the tent caught on fire. I screamed, "Lila, wake up!" Lila jumped up, and we both started throwing things out of the tent. Our sleeping bags, our backpacks, our snacks. The tent was burning. I grabbed my blankie. Lila grabbed the water jug and splashed it on the fire. We stomped and screamed. Then the fire stopped. But half our tent was gone. Lila grabbed the flashlight and looked around. "Who's out there?" she yelled. But there was no one, only rocks and shadows. Then we heard it again, louder than ever. Ah! But it wasn't just one. Another one joined in, and another, and another. Screams from the dark, all around us. I held Lila's hand tight. "We have to go," I said. We ran. We didn't even know where the truck was. We just ran. The screams followed us, closer and closer. My heart was pounding so hard. Then, a miracle. We saw our truck. We jumped inside. Lila turned the key and we zoomed off into the dark. The road was bumpy. The truck shook, but we didn't stop. Not until we saw lights, streetlights, headlights, cars, people. We were safe. Lila called the police. She cried a little. I didn't cry. I just stared at the stars. They didn't look pretty anymore. That night, someone tried to hurt us. Someone tried to burn us while we were sleeping. But we got away. We're never going back to the desert. Hi, my name is Max. This happened when I was just 5. I wasn't supposed to go into the mountain that day. But my friends Benny and Jack wanted to explore. And I said yes. I really wish I hadn't. We lived near Zion National Park in Utah. That's a place with big red mountains and secret paths. Lots of people come to hike there. But there are also places nobody goes. Benny found one of those places on a weird website. It said, "Lost caves, don't go alone." We should have listened. One sunny morning, we packed our backpacks with snacks and flashlights. Jack brought an old map. "Look," he said, pointing at a squiggly mark. "That's the cave." The walk was long. My feet got tired. We climbed over rocks, ducked under trees, and crossed a creaky old bridge that made scary noises when we stepped on it. "Are you sure this is the way?" I asked Benny. He just smiled and said, "We're almost there." Then, we saw it. A dark, broken hole in the side of the red mountain. It looked like a giant mouth ready to eat us. "That's it," Jack shouted. "I don't want to go in there," I whispered. But Benny said, "We'll just look around a little. Don't be a baby." So I followed them in. The cave was cold, dark, and really quiet. Our flashlights made long shadows that danced on the rocky walls. I stayed close behind them, but the deeper we went, the weirder it felt. Then Benny stopped. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "No," I said. "What?" "Shh," Jack whispered. We all listened, and then we heard it. Scray, scray. Something, or someone, was dragging something across the ground. It was coming from deeper inside. We turned off our flashlights and stood very still. Scrappy, scrappy. The sound got louder and closer. It echoed through the tunnel like it was everywhere. I held my breath. My heart was going thump, thump, thump. Then, bang! Something metal hit the cave floor. It was so loud my ears hurt. And then, we heard the scream. Not just any scream. A long, loud monster scream that didn't sound like any animal I knew. It sounded like this. Rah! I screamed too. Run! I shouted. Benny and Jack were already running. I turned and ran as fast as I could, but the floor was slippery. I tripped. My shoe came off. My flashlight flew into the dark. I couldn't see. Something was coming. I didn't stop. I ran with one shoe and didn't look back. My foot hurt so bad, but I had to get out. Benny and Jack made it to the sunlight first. I climbed the last part on my hands and knees. It felt like I was climbing out of a nightmare. My foot was bleeding. I had splinters and rocks stuck in it. Benny helped me stand. Jack looked pale. We got into our car and drove fast. So fast. Nobody talked. We were too scared. At the hospital, the doctor gave me a tetanus shot and cleaned my foot. He said I was lucky, but I didn't feel lucky. A few days later, Jack said he lost his wallet near the cave. He wanted to go back and get it. Are you crazy? I shouted. But we went anyway, just to the outside. We didn't go back in. Never again. We looked around the rocks. No wallet. But guess what we found? My shoe. The one I lost when I fell. But it looked different. It had teeth marks. Big ones. And parts were missing, like something chewed it up. We all stared at it. Nobody said a word. Then we got in the car and left. We never talked about it again. But sometimes at night I still hear it. Scrape, scrape, and then, rah! I never want to go near that mountain again. Hi, my name is Lila, and I'm going to tell you about the scariest thing that ever happened to me years ago. It happened when we went to visit my Aunt Rosa in El Paso, Texas. She lives in a tiny old house near the Franklin Mountains, way out by the desert where there are cactus plants and dust everywhere. The sun is super hot, and there's not a lot of people around. Mommy said we were going to stay there for 3 days. I didn't want to go, because I remembered something from last time. Something bad. Something about dolls. Aunt Rosa has this little wooden shed behind her house. It's falling apart. There are spider webs in the corners, and the door creaks real loud when the wind blows. The first time I went there, I peeked inside, and I saw them. Dolls. Hundreds of them. Not the nice kind like I have in my room. These dolls were old. Their faces were cracked. Their eyes were scratched. Some were missing arms or legs, and their hair was all messy and weird. I asked Aunt Rosa why she had them. She said, "They keep me company." That night, I had a nightmare, but this time, I was braver. So when we got to her house, I asked Mommy, "Can I go look at the dolls again?" She said, "Only if you take your cousin Leo with you." Leo is 6. He thinks he's super cool. So he said, "Let's go see the spooky dolls." We walked past the cactus garden. The sky was orange. The shed was there, just like I remembered. And when we opened the door, they were still there, stacked on shelves, hanging from hooks, sitting in corners, all looking at us. Leo picked one up. "This one's eyes are gone," he said, laughing. I didn't laugh. I felt like they were watching. Then one of them fell off the shelf. Clunk. Leo jumped. "That wasn't me." We looked around. There was no wind. Nothing moved. And then we heard it. A tiny laugh from the back of the shed. I grabbed Leo's hand. "Did you hear that?" He nodded. "Let's go." But the door slammed shut. Bam! We screamed. Leo tried the handle. It wouldn't open. And then, one of the dolls moved. It turned its head. Very slowly. Then another doll's mouth opened, and it whispered, "Why did you come back?" I screamed so loud my voice hurt. Leo kicked the door. "Let us out!" Then a doll with a cracked face fell right at my feet. And it whispered again, "We remember you." I couldn't move. There were dolls crawling off the shelves now, their little plastic fingers clicking. One doll had hair that looked like it was moving on its own. I screamed again, "Mommy!" Suddenly, the door burst open. Aunt Rosa was standing there. She looked angry. She said, "I told you not to go in there." She picked up a doll and looked at it. Then she whispered something to it in Spanish. And all the dolls went still. No more crawling. No more whispering. Just silence. Mommy ran up and grabbed me. "What were you doing in there?" I cried and pointed. "They talked! They moved!" Aunt Rosa looked at Mommy and said, "They only move when they're lonely." We left early the next morning. When I looked out the window of the car, I saw the shed again. The door was swinging open, and one doll, just one, was sitting in the doorway. Its head turned, and it waved, with one broken arm. Now I don't play with dolls anymore. And if you ever go to El Paso and see a little wooden shed near the desert, don't go inside, because if you do, they might remember you too.